Hello, I'm Nikki from Willow and Yoga and welcome to my bird feeder tutorial. Here's a list of the materials and tools that are required for the project and my suppliers, Musgroves.
So let's move on to making the bird feeder.
So here we begin. I use a block.
I have created a block which
with.
is a really good thing to work from.
So
12 holes, 10 centimetres
and
across,
10 centimetre diameter across the top.
which I have drilled. And we will come to that a little bit
And a
later.
drill with a 10mm bit.
Then I'm going to use a pair of secateurs,
So we have a ball of string,
a wrapper, which
pair
I
of
don't have in the
secateurs,
picture, scissors for the
or
string,
secateurs for
and the
use.
string I
with the
use is a
string.
tarred twine. It holds well and lasts a long
finally,
time
a
outside.
cable tie.
And the cable tie.
We also use a wrapper.
I'm
and you
going
will
to be
see that
using a
later
brown
on
willow
in the
that I've
tutorial.
soaked for 4 days.
So these are
It's
my
4
12
foot.
uprights,
These are the 12
about 4
I'll
foot,
use for the
1.2
uprights.
metres long. They're in
These
brown.
are the 12 weavers.
And I've got my weavers. They
These
can
are
be a
the
bit
2
shorter.
long fine weavers.
2 very long thin weavers.
And then finally
and
we're
one
going
more
to have the one
this side of the
to
table
tie it
for the
off.
binding. Coming back to the base, use your drill and drill down as deeply as you can. This is really important. You need that length of willow at the end for the border. You can trim the bottoms of the sticks when you put them in and push them right the way down. As I said, I'm using browns. If you're going to use buff, that's fine, but it might dry out by the end of the project, in which case you will need to re-soak it, and we'll come to that later. So all 12 go in. And then we're ready for the weaving. This is called a 3-rod wale. 3 tips. The first tip goes behind one upright. Move one to the right, insert the second tip. One to the right for the third tip. So you have 3 rods coming out of 3 spaces adjacent to each other. You weave anti-clockwise, so you take the rod nearest you in front of 2 uprights and round behind 1. Out it comes. This is the traditional way of learning this weave. In front of 2 and behind 1. So we want the weave nice and tight, not baggy. So you can use your thumb to push it in. And here we go again. So in front of 2, behind 1. The other way of looking at it is you go in where the rod comes out. So where I've just come out, that's where you go in, behind 1 upright, out of the next space. We all learn differently, and this works better for some of us. In front of 2, whoops, and behind 1, or in the space you just came out of. So you make a cross over the weaver and out the next space. So I hold my palm up, face upwards, and it's easier to hold and manipulate the willow this way. I use my thumb to keep the weave tight, and then when I've come around once, I start to look at the uprights. I want them as straight as I possibly can. So from now on, you keep manipulating the uprights as you weave. And you're going to weave these right the way round to the butt end. This is the wrapper I was talking about. You can use this or a hammer. I'm going to knock the weave down as tightly as I can. You can see it becomes more tightly packed. I've made a decision that this willow's too thick, so I'm going to trim it down a bit, make it more manageable, and then insert the new weavers. So the first weaver comes in on the left. I look at it, too thick. So So I'm going to cut it down a bit more. I ease the left rod back, and there's a little gap and it sits in alongside. That is really important, about an inch. If it sits on top, you can see the weavers on the right lift up, so it must be flat, horizontal, next door, and straight away in front of 2, behind 1. I come to the middle rod, in it goes, and again. Oh, hang on, this one's got a canker, so I'm going to take that up. Not going to use that. That will split, and we will replace that one. So, whichever method you're using, in front of 2, behind 1, or in where the last rod came out, and down it goes. So once you've replaced all 3 rods, you're going to continue weaving from the butt end to the tip end. Before I go any further, I will trim down these butt sticks. I'm not going to cut them right to the edge yet. I'm just going to make them shorter so they don't get entangled in the work. So inserting the tips this time, so it's tip to tip. It was butt to butt previously, now it's tip to tip. Ease the left rod back in the little space and weave it round. Check your uprights. In the middle rod, in it goes, and weave into place, and finally the one on the right. And we will continue the 3-rod wale. So I've woven round to the butt end, and now I'm giving it another wrap, knocking it down. You can see it drops. Very tightly woven. The willow will shrink a little as it's wet. So I pull back the butt end, insert the new rod, and begin the process one more time. It's called a 3-rod wale. And I'm going to weave right the way round to the tips now. So to finish off, I weave the tip and I bind it underneath the top row of the weave. So instead of bringing it out on top, I tuck it underneath and pull it through nice and tightly. I'm doing that to all 3. So you must leave enough room at the end to do this. So that's completed. One more wrap. And then you use the secateurs. And because you've wrapped it very tightly, you can cut up right to the edge, trimming everything up. With the bird feeders, you can trim on the inside if you want to. I tend to leave it. A little bit more around the front here. And then it's all done. So the next part of the project, I use a recycled cable tie, and I'm going to bring all the uprights together. As you can see, I add one at a time on the outside. They then spiral in evenly. They're not crossed, and it's easy to weave up. And I take the two very long thin weavers and I'm going to cut a long cut. Can be called a slipe if you do it with a knife. And you can see I'm inserting one on the right hand side, one rod, one upright, and one on the second one. This one doesn't want to go in, it's too tightly woven. So I'm going to take it out. I've got rather a big bodkin here, but make a hole. And then I can insert the weaver in the right place. Push it down as far as you can so it's nice and secure. This is pairing. So the left hand rod comes round into place, round the back. So I have the two rods coming out of two spaces next door to each other. The left hand rod goes in front of one upright and round behind the next one. It's like a twisting. They can kink quite a bit at this point because I'm starting to spiral up. Trying to loop it, pull it tight, use the thumb, and you're going to spiral these long rods as far as you possibly can, keeping the uprights close together, pulling the weave to the right so it's tight and pulling them in. Otherwise at this point you can lose control and the weavers can come up, the uprights can come up further. Here we are at the top. It's very tight at this point, so you have to tease them in and out through the gaps. If your weavers aren't long enough, you can always tie them together at this point. And I'm going to leave it that the tips will tuck in to the cable tie. So it's great that it's reusable. I'm going to come in. And I take the last rod for binding. So I'm going to move the cable tie down a bit, put the butt end in amongst the weavers, bend it, and then bind it round and round. Probably gone a bit far on this one. And then getting the tip back up underneath is tricky. Taking the cable tie off, holding the willow at the same time, and the idea is the tip goes up. If that doesn't work, you get the bodkin, you create the space, and see whether it works this time. So here we are. I've shortened the binding, making sure the bodkin comes right up to the top. Now if the tip doesn't work, what you do is you're going to take a pair of secateurs and blunt it. Shorten it, blunt it. And then this time, yes, up it comes. And you pull it really tightly. And trim off the end piece. So I'm going to take it out the block and do the border. The first rod I bend over using my thumb, so you can see I've created a bit of space. Goes behind one, in front of one. Bend it in, behind and in front. This is called a track border, simple track border. In it comes and round the back. So if you're using buff willow, it could very possibly have dried out by now. You will have to re-soak it. You can put the ends in a bucket. You can even use hot water to speed the process up. If it's dried out completely, it will take an hour to re-soak. So the last few go into place, and the end one has to do something completely different because the upright it goes behind is bent over, but you have the space to do that. So here we are, I tuck it between my legs, loop it around as much as you can. So if you can leave the thinnest of these uprights to the last one, then that works really well. Through it comes. Hey, and there we have it, the bird feeder. Complete. You trim the side pieces off, not too short. You cut them back to one of the uprights, otherwise they will ping back through the hole. That's one of the reasons we drilled the really long hole at the beginning, to make sure they were long enough for this part of the project. Trim up the sides, and then I'm going to use string on the top. You can do a willow twisty tie, but this is a tarred twine that I've found, and it lasts a long time outside. Double knot. Loop it over, round to the other side. Trim that up. Secateurs or scissors, whichever you prefer. And there is the completed bird feeder. Once you put the fat balls in, you can put an extra piece of willow across the top to try and stop the squirrels. And we hang ours upstairs so the squirrels can't get there. And as you can see, it's very, very popular. Thank you very much for watching the tutorial.